Good morning again.
Good morning.
So here's what happened in that particular reading. An angel of the Lord suddenly comes down from heaven, rolls the stone away. Then the gospel clearly says he's not there. Now, every painting of this scene that you see, in every movie, is the stone rolls away and he comes out of the tomb. As a matter of fact, in the Western church, it looks like he comes out of the gym. Almost has nothing on, totally muscular, white, tall, and handsome. The last thing he is a Jew. The last thing is a Middle Eastern man. The last thing is a real human being. It's almost like a Superman or a super lord rises out of the tomb. Obviously, the author of Matthew didn't see the movie. He's not there. Now, this is extremely frustrating on Easter Sunday when this is the gospel. We have the Alleluias ready, we have the trumpets ready, the dancers are ready to go, everything's in place, even the little flowers are blooming like they've never blossomed before, and he doesn't even show up. Look, he's not here. Now, just what you want to do is to pay attention to something that isn't there. There's another detail. Not only does the angel of the Lord come down from heaven and roll the stone away, but Matthew, and unique to the Gospel of Matthew, the angel sits on the stone. To the best of my knowledge, angels do not have the body parts to sit. So, how does an angel sit down? It's a fascinating scene. We have a scene of the resurrection of Jesus with no Jesus. He isn't there, which leads to the question, where did he go? And when did he go? And how did he do that? And where is he? Second, we have an angel sitting on the stone opposite the women who were sitting on a bench observing the tomb. These are either the two looniest women in the world, or they're seeing something no one else can see. They sit opposite the tomb with the soldiers opposite them, where peace confronts war, where light confronts death, where hope confronts despair. Remember, for the women to be opposite the tomb is for the women to publicly confess that they are as guilty as the one who was crucified. There's a conspiracy here, and it's a conspiracy in your favor. For these two women exemplify what it is to be a courageous human being. To not be defined by the obvious, to not be trapped by the mundane, and for God's sakes, not to be buried alive in despair. Rather than run away from the tomb, as the apostles did, the women, showing what it is to be a true apostle, keep vigilance at the tomb as if there's something else to the story. As if there's more to it. So the angel positioned on the stone as if to insult being dead. And the women already seated begin a critical conversation. And it's that conversation of the three, the angelic being from above, and the women of Galilee, sit in a graveyard in Judea and perceive beyond the obvious. It's a remarkable thing. And I would suspect that Jesus is not there because he does not want to ruin the situation. Certainly if he were to appear at that moment, he would take over all the attention. Great people know how to get out of the way so that all people can find their greatness. But I'm intrigued. Where did he go? And how did he do this before the stones rolled away? I'd like to focus on that for a few moments. Right now in Christianity, we are pulling out of the season called Easter, Pentecost, and Ascension. The Ascension causes great difficulty for many preachers. They're not quite sure what to do with it. As a matter of fact, if you look at the New Testament, or the Younger Testament, you see that Luke is elaborate with it in the Acts of the Apostles. Matthew has it as a passing incident, and the other Gospels love to ignore it. The ancient spiritual writers of the church said that as he ascends, whatever he touches, he redeems. Whatever he touches, he becomes. So the ascension is not seen as an event so much as a process. What it is to ascend through the universe. What it is to discover your essential relationship with everything that exists. You see that elaborated in the epistle to the Corinthians and the Ephesians. But the ascension has much more to it, because not only is it a spectacular point of view in the New Testament tradition, it's an event that we see three times, at least three times, in the faith traditions of the world. It emerges in biblical Judaism, it emerges in Christianity, and it emerges in Islam. In all three of these faith traditions, and all three of these rivers of spirituality, we see an ascension event. Let's look at the three ascensions in the interfaith literature. First, in the Hebrew Bible, the Elder Testament, in biblical Judaism, we read of the ascension of Elijah. What is fascinating about the ascension of Elijah is that it takes place before Elijah dies. As a matter of fact, he doesn't die. This is unbecoming redemptive religions which require everybody to die. After all, death is supposed to be the punishment for sin. So the least the just God could do is kill you in some dimension of being punished. Elijah breaks the record. He's instructing his disciple, the one who's going to follow him. As a matter of fact, Elijah's ascension is grandiose. Fire comes from heaven. Chariots come from the sky and lift him up and take him away. You can see him riding off into the cosmos as he blesses the earth behind him. All that happens is his mantle falls down behind him as his disciple grabs the mantle of his heritage and cries after his father who's ascending. To this day, in the practice of Judaism, we keep a chair in the Passover event that perhaps Elijah will come. Perhaps Elijah will come to the door. Perhaps Elijah has come 1,000 times over. Where is this Elijah? It's a dramatic retell that points to a powerful story. There's always more to the story. Just when you think you figured everything out, just when you think there's no more to the story of grief and loss and hurt, there's an ascension, as if something breaks in from the other side, but actually something breaks in from the heart. One is suddenly lifted up. One is suddenly taken into a perspective. As a matter of fact, the disciple of Elijah, in order to experience the ascension of Elijah, had to stop looking down and start looking up. Perhaps had to start looking out. The first ascension. Nobody dies. Everyone's inspired as one travels to the universe. Is he coming back again? Or are we all invited to travel through the universe? In other words, is the ascension of Elijah not an expectation he will return, but an expectation that someday, if not now, you will take off? Then there's the ascension of Jesus. He decides to ascend after he's dead, or after he's risen, or after he's not there. Frequently in the teaching of Jesus, this is what Jesus said. It's good for you that I go away. Have you ever met a politician yet who said to you, it's good for you that I go away? Even the clergy. Have you ever met a clergy person that said, the best thing I can do to help this congregation is get out? Most of us have the mentality, the best thing that can happen to this congregation is that you all bow down and kiss my foot. Finally, we have somebody in our lives whose foot we'd like to kiss, Jesus. And he says, it's good for you that I go away. Or true to his inner Buddhist nature, he says to Mary Magdalene, do not cling to me. Then he says in John's Gospel, if I do not go away, the Spirit will not come to you. And when the Spirit comes to you, the Spirit will teach you everything you need to know. You can't know anything without me. God sent me in the world to tell you what you should believe. No. Here we finally have the Master. And the Master says, good for you that I go away. Don't let me dam up your soul. Don't let me dam up the river that comes from within you. Don't let me dam up the living waters that emerge from the depth of your soul. It's good for you that I go away. I only came to uncork the bowel of your wisdom. The third ascension, Muhammad. The night journey. We're mesmerized. How do you go from Mecca to Jerusalem without a high-speed train? How do you go from Mecca to Jerusalem in a flash, in an instant? And we're mesmerized by the miracle. How did he go from Mecca to Jerusalem? But all that was a setup, a detail for the wonderful event that he ascends into heaven while he's still alive and comes back while he's still alive. And in the great tradition of Islam, we find in the Quran and the Hadiths that as Muhammad ascends into heaven, he meets the prophets of old and talks to them. Here's the ascension, that's that essential descension, that going down into the depth of mind, heart, soul, and history. In order to look up, we must be aware of where we look up from. In order to look up, we must be aware of that essential center that is ourselves. For once we stand in the center of ourselves, we stand in the center of the universe. And there, the greatest hymn is the silence of being overwhelmed. I was wondering if something would glow in my life, and I found myself glowing. He speaks to Buddha. He speaks to Jesus. He speaks to Moses. He speaks to Sarah. He speaks to Hagar. He speaks to Ishmael. He speaks to Adam. He speaks to Isaiah. And he learns what it is to encounter the divine. He learns what it is to ascend. And then he has something to say to a people in the world. Three aspects of Ascension. Three aspects of what it is to be lifted up, to go up, to radiate from within. As Hadith said, one day the sun said, "Oh, how I wish I could show you your inner light, and then you would glow with all the suns of the universe. And then the stars of the night would rejoice. For is not all one? Is not all invited to peace, even in a graveyard in Judea?" Be at peace.